So welcome to the show, Keith Martin, Sports Car Market Magazine, where we bring his blog to life every week. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Stewart. It's great to see you.
Great to see you. And we've been kind of spotty getting together lately because we've had a lot going on, and that's okay. And we have two weeks of it.
What I heard, Stewart, was that Monterey was so expensive you couldn't afford to pay your internet bills.
Well, that's not far from the truth, Keith. You know what? It was a lot of fun. I won't do it quite as much or as crazy as we did it last time, or this time, but it was a whole lot of fun, and it was a great bucket list thing to check off. And
right.
we'll go back, but probably not to the same level that we went this time.
So the car show I was at this last weekend was a car show, but a different car show.
Right.
It's our 48th annual All British Field Meet, and it bills itself as the largest 3-day British car show in the nation.
Wow. How many cars?
About 600 cars.
Wow. That's crazy.
And it's really delightful. You know, what's interesting to walk through it is these are all pre-OBD cars, right?
Right.
I mean, and so you're looking at cars pre-EPA, pre-DOT. So what all it took was an engineer and a stylist.
Right.
And a salesman.
Yeah, and a salesman. You got to have the salesman. Yeah.
And so it's amazing to see all the different variations in the way that cars were approached. I mean, I didn't realize that TR3s, for instance, were the first production cars with disc brakes.
I had no idea either, and that's interesting. And that would be something that you would think would come up more often, that you would have heard that or recognized that.
But it's so each manufacturer had their own specific vision. And what I like to tell people about cars that are being built, or art, anything, people are responsible for the questions that are being asked in their era. What's the technique for the TR3? That was the best that they could do. What a revolution the TR3, the MGA were over the cycle fendered cars.
Exactly, a huge difference, and a much more cohesive looking about them. They didn't look like they were old when they were new, you know, and that was the problem with the fender cars. They all looked old from day one, you know.
Right.
And I think that the MGA and the TR3 are two of the really coolest looking British cars, you know, available British cars, if you will.
I would agree with that. And they were a definite break from pre-war.
Right, exactly. So, and of course, then they had to modernize them, and of course, then the regulations kicked in, and you saw what you saw with bumpers and different things like that, and people trying to figure it out without completely destroying the car. And of course, some of the bumpers on the MGs were.
It was not only the bumpers, but the U.S. changed its headlight regulations in terms of the height that the headlight had to be above the pavement.
Right.
And the way that MGB solved it was they just raised the whole car up 2 inches.
That sounds logical, right?
We are so lucky to have lived through this era where my first car was a Bug-Eye, and then an MGA, and then an Alpha. But they were all the MGA. I bought it out of a junkyard for $250, and the guy said, if you just put some STP in it, that rod knock won't sound so bad.
Of course, that'll fix it. It always fixes it, right?
It does.
And if it won't start, you just beat on the starter with a hammer until it does turn over, right?
It will start. At some point, it will start.
You know, but if that's not the charm about this, then I don't know what is. The ability to be able to know how to kind of, these little shortcuts that you can know how to try to fix something or try to limp home on some kind of way and not have to call the tow truck, you know, that's very gratifying.
Well, I bought a big Healy BN7 at about 100 miles from me. I'm driving it home on the road. It ceases to progress, right? The motor goes real quiet, and the car just coasts to the side of the road. 10 minutes later, a guy in another BM7 pulls up next to me, behind me on the freeway. He said, "Oh, I know what your problem is." He gets out a hammer. He hits my SU fuel pump. The car starts, and he says, "See you later."
It's like God sent divine intervention down, and he was right behind you.
I know.
That's great. But, you know,
Go ahead.
It's fun to teach kids stuff like that, the little intricacies and the way to do it and how you had to do this. And I remember I had a Suburban that you had to get underneath it with a screwdriver and turn the flywheel just a little bit so it would get a point where it would catch the teeth and actually start. And that was impressive on a date. So,
well, I had a Land Rover Defender 90, and I was on a first date with somebody going to Timberline Lodge, and my front U-joint went bad. So what I called a wrecker, and we popped the car up in the air. We took the front U-joint off. No, let's see, it was the front. Took the front drive shaft off, threw it in the back of the car, and put the car in all four-wheel drive. Well,
all-wheel drive.
All-wheel, but it would have been two-wheel at that point.
Right.
I only had. And continued, and she looked at me and she said, "Did you just take a part off your car and throw it in the back?"
Yeah, that gives her a good, warm, fuzzy feeling, right?
Exactly.
We had a Mercedes 420 SEL as just a daily driver, and the rear shock came loose because it rusted out on the upper tower part, and so we just took one of the rear shocks off and threw it in the trunk and just still drove it, and it didn't matter.
I know. Well, we have been lucky because we've been through cars when they've been pretty good and then gone to pretty bad.
Sure. Well, as you and I both have talked about in the past, and we both know, when the 70s hit, and of course I was mid-teens when the 70s, in the middle of the 70s, and we thought there's never going to be a cool car ever again. The horsepower is gone, the performance is gone, the handling, the looks, nothing's going to be cool anymore. And of course we were wrong, and I'm glad we were.
OBD2.
Yeah. Look that up for those of you who don't know what he's talking about. So, so the British all British field meet. Your question was, should you slalom the Jaguar? And
because they offered a low speed slalom, which is like an autocross,
right?
Tight turns, and with that V12 Jag, it's got. It's an automatic, so really you just put it in first gear and drive it.
Just go and don't hit the cones, right?
Yeah, don't hit the comments I get back were pretty interesting because one of them said, "Do you like your wire wheels actually touching the rim, or would you like to have them just poke the spokes poke through into the tire?"
Yes, and you said, "Of course, that's what I would like." Duh.
And they said, "No, just exactly what are you going to prove by doing this to this car?"
I liked when your comment was about, I can't remember, but your mechanic loves it when you put 10,000 miles on a car in a day, or the equivalent of.
You slam on the brakes and slam on the accelerator more times in a slalom than you do in 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tougher on the cars than people realize. You better have it well sorted, otherwise you're going to have problems with it, right?
Yeah, it's better. Like my daughter's got a Lotus Elise. Now that's a good car to autocross.
Sure, absolutely. Tight and small and agile and fast, right. And checks all the right boxes, right?
The V12 Jaguar weighs 3,500 pounds.
And most of it's the engine up front, right?
That's right. The thing that you're squealing when you're turning the tires and making them whine. I decided. I put a stack of Benjamins, $5,000 on one side, and I put the trophy for the slalom on the other side. Which would I rather have, the 5,000 or the trophy?
You chose the trophy, of course, right?
I did, of course, because car guys.
Yeah, car guys. We're not going to not choose the trophy, duh. So this event's been going on since the 70s. I mean, that's pretty amazing. That
48th year.
Wow, how cool is that? And 600 vehicles, and I imagine every parts vendor that had anything to do with British cars was there as well too.
That's right, and it just, there were probably 70 or 80 Land Rovers of different categories. The MGs, Triumphs. I saw 3 Triumph Stags in one place.
No. Is there 3 left? Because I have one of them here, so I thought there was only.
You have 1/4 of the collection.
Exactly. Yeah. How funny. Well, it's to each his own. The Stags have love. They're loved by people that really. I think it's people that grew up and some cool kid down the street had one or something. It's funny how these cars become iconic to people and really hit certain people's buttons and don't always do it for the general population.
I have never heard the words iconic and Triumph Stag used in the same sentence.
Well, I just wanted to be, have a first here, Keith, for heaven's sakes. We've got to differentiate ourselves from everybody else.
And the four of them were kind of hiding off in the corner.
Right, exactly. Well, because
I think they were swapping parts.
They were, yeah, because they can do that somehow, morphing internally or something. So,
I know.
Anyway, so great to have you on as usual, Keith, and we will look forward to speaking to you again next week on the Classic Auto Mall Show and bringing the Sports Car Market podcast to life. We'll see you then.
Here's a special offer from Sports Car Market Magazine. Get a 6-month subscription for just $19.95 by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive and the number 6. That's sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. If you're a buyer, a seller, or just general classic car enthusiast, publisher Keith Martin says,
we've been around almost 40 years. It's the Wall Street Journal of the collector car world.
Activate your 6-month trial of Sports Car Market Magazine by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. Offers for a limited time. Be in the know with Sports Car Market.
The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stewart Howden. Available on classicautomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.